Dun, dun, dun. We are live. Hey guys, welcome to episode 14. Yes, I'm looking at it right. Of the weekly season 3. Thank you very much again for joining us. And of course, with me this week is the one and only Mr. Juan Bagnell from Pocket Now.
What's up, West Coast represent? Let's do this.
All right. And just to let you guys know, Sam will not be able to join us, as well as Mr. Warren Bowman. They have previous activities.
Don't make it sound dirty.
No, sorry. I was not trying to. I apologize. But they have previous commitments that they actually have to handle. So, before we move ahead with the content of this week, I want to announce the winners of our giveaway that we hosted 2 weeks ago with Soldier Knows Best. I know you were missing that week because you were the dentist. But the winners are Tiffany Losey, Mike Rogers, and Damien Hillman. Congratulations to all three of you. You won. We will be sending you emails, so you can send us your mailing address as well as your correct contact info, so we can actually mail your stuff out to you. I'll put the winners in the description of the video once this video is done. And again, thank you very much for chiming in. So let us kick things off with uselessness of the week.
Well, before we get into uselessness, I think we do need to disclose to this audience that I'm sick as a dog and you're hungover.
Yeah.
So this is either going to be the best show ever or the bestest show ever.
Yes, that is very true. It's very true. I had a friend, actually some friends came into town yesterday, so there's a lot of celebration and a lot of water right now.
I'm trying to just dose some coffee so I can hopefully stay on my feet for this.
All right, so let's kick things off, like I said, with the uselessness of the week, which is also our first topic, and this has to do with Microsoft and the Surface phone. So word broke. This is from Windows Central, which we can kind of take this as. No, I wouldn't say take it as
well. I'm willing to put a little more faith in this, and it's not where it's really rare that I'll say oh, go out and read this article. This thing is crazy long. Whoever they got to spill the beans, they've got an intense amount of information regarding future strategies and processor relationships with Intel and timelines for what these products might look like. So this one, whether or not this is all completely true, I'm willing to say that it looks like this is like on the right track at least.
Yeah, definitely so. The main gist of the article is that Windows Phone is pretty much dead. Windows Phone Mobile, as it is pretty much dead, right now. One of the main reasons is because the Surface phone is going to be pushed to 2017, and they're going to have 3 variants now, which is fine. There is the consumer, professional, and the prosumer versions of this devices. Now, what's really sad and why I call it uselessness is because this is a typical Microsoft strategy in mobile. Start, kill, start again. It's live, die, repeat. This is exactly what it is. It is
only they don't seem to learn from each life and death as well as Tom Cruise did.
Well, remember Tom Cruise did it 400 or something times. So. I don't know how long it would take. One of the sad issues is not really sad, but I see, I spoke to Warren about this yesterday because he was texting me because he couldn't, come to the show. But he said, Windows Phone is dead. Microsoft should leave mobile is finished. I said, yeah. And the only way they can go out of this with any success is, I know I heard rumors in the past that the Surface phone is meant to change mobile just like the Surface did. Like that is really what they're trying to do here. So if that is the case, where a phone is not a phone anymore, Microsoft has made it a computer in your hands, and you can use it to that extent and to the minimum extent.
Right.
That I think is where they will make the hit. But right now they've killed it. And also, one of the reasons why I think it's delayed is because of Intel. Intel and its chip production cycles, you never tie your product to them. These guys are bad. Microsoft has had a bad history. Remember, Vista came out early only because Intel started making dual core processors, and not the proper ones, the ones that were two separate chips.
Yeah.
So, it's one of those things that, Microsoft is really tying this to the OEM, and Intel has to deliver. So, I mean, on one hand, it makes sense to not release it if the chip's not ready yet. On the other hand, you just killed your thing again.
Yeah, we've talked about this too. When we look at strategies, Microsoft for moving into Windows 10, Microsoft seems to be doing this, I think, in a backwards way, where they'll put more resources into Windows Phone when they have more developers making universal apps. But part of that universal app strategy is that developers know that they've got a solution for mobile devices. They don't need to keep writing separate apps for each platform. So it's cool, but I think there's less pressure on developers to write apps for desktops and tablets because legacy software still works. And I know they're trying to provide, like Build. There was a lot of discussion at Build this year where they were providing tools so you could turn legacy apps.
They just released it yesterday.
And okay, so it did finally go live.
Yeah.
So that's cool, but there's still very little pressure on developers to execute for that platform. I mean, if I were a developer, I'd say like, hey, I've got this really cool, funky audio spectrum analyzer, and it works on it. I wrote it for Windows XP. I updated it for Windows 7. It still works on Windows 10. What incentive do I have? What need do I have to even take the time, the minute amount of time to translate that into a universal app, especially knowing there is no Windows Phone momentum happening for at least a year?
True. And you make a good point. This is where Microsoft needs to do an outside the box gamble, especially with the app adoption. And there are a couple of ways you can do that. There's one thing you could either look at some of your Windows app developers, the best ones, right? And either buy them up, hire them, and then create a team that starts going from developer to developer, from big to small, to just change their apps for them. You almost have to force it. You pay them, that's one,
right,
or you do it for them, that's two. And you have to kind of go around and start doing it, and also reach out to not every, but like every key developer, in a sense, where you go, okay, you know what? A lot of people use these applications. Hey, you know what? We just change your app for you.
I think, sorry, I just had like three thoughts try and leave my mouth at the same time. I do this to you guys like every week. So I think there could be a value in pissing off some developers. Because like your idea there, you go to every developer. I think you look at like who's doing the best work in messaging right now. Yeah. Okay, well, WhatsApp is doing a great job. Let's really help WhatsApp. Let's pick them as a winner. And then everyone else around that ecosystem is going to get pissed off when they see WhatsApp has this amazing app on Windows 10. Well, I mean, if you want to compete, Windows 10 is ready to go. All you need to do is start developing universal apps for it. But you helped WhatsApp. You're like, well, we needed something and you guys weren't getting it done.
Yeah.
So maybe Windows 10 doesn't have the same variety of apps that legacy software can support. But right now, there's no pressure. There's no pressure on anyone to really try and compete on Windows 10 right now because of its amazing legacy support. So
yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. And I think they missed the point of like making apps. This is the time Microsoft can now make that other switch for the Surface, because people are buying the Surface, right? But think about it. We do a lot of, the Surface is a tablet now. It's really kicking the iPad, where it's forcing Apple to make changes.
Yeah.
So if you're developing WhatsApp, messaging goes in there. One, you know what? You do the same thing with. If I were you, you do the same thing. Go to Google and do it for them, and submit it and say, guys, here, what do you think? Go to all those key people.
Yeah.
And do it for at least 4 banks, and bring it back.
Oh, and can you imagine like if the kind of traction you go to B of A and you just make an amazing friggin' app for B of A. You just force B of A's hand.
Yeah,
just
exactly.
do it for them.
And then you now say, look, this is the new business. You know why? Because then when you now do that Surface ad, you're like, I can do PowerPoint and this, but then I swipe here, here's my banking account. And since my Surface now has a fingerprint scanner, boop, open, done.
So we got a comment in the live chat from Vicente George. Developers like Rudy Huynh were always willing to do that. The guy even received proposals from Apple and Google, but nothing from Microsoft. And yeah, like when you played with Rudy's apps on Windows Phone, he made, it's the thing that really bugs the crap out of me. When you play with the Instagram app, the official Instagram app on Windows Phone, it's still laggy, it's still crashy, it's still buggy, it's still terrible. Rudy made 6tag all by himself. I feel like Obadiah Stane from the first Iron Man movie. Tony was able to make this in a cave with a box of scraps.
Yeah,
Rudy could do that. Why can't Facebook? Facebook has this amazing wealth of resource, and they can't make an app which can compete with 6tag. That's nuts. But it was always disappointing, that part of the story where you had a really proactive solo developer who was doing amazing work for the platform, and he never really seemed to get any support from the people who made the platform.
I mean, I heard Microsoft words. I mean,
they reached out to him to make a fancy lock screen. That was all they were willing to task him with, and he was there trying to crack wasn't WhatsApp. What was the other one that he did a really cool crap? What's that? The messages delete after you send them.
I can't remember.
Well, I am so hopped up on really good cold medication right now. This is amazing podcasting that you're listening to at the moment.
Sorry.
But anyway, Snapchat.
Yes.
Snapchat. I got there. It took me a while, but I got there. So he had amazing Snapchat apps that I thought were better than the actual Snapchat client. And then, of course, Snapchat shut all that down. But anyway, regardless, since Microsoft, I think, lost out on an opportunity to court a really passionate developer like Rudy, they just need to now do it their damn selves.
No, they still can't. He hasn't even gone anywhere. That's the thing, right? It's not like he's left the ecosystem.
It's more that the ecosystem is leaving him.
Yeah, but
you know what I mean?
Yeah, no. This is where if I were Microsoft, I go back and I say, okay, Rudy, right? And I think also to some degree, Rudy didn't really want to work for anyone. This is where you say, Rudy, we want to hire you on contract. We want you to come in and do some great stuff for us. Remember all those apps you made, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Remake them again. Do it. We'll pay you. We don't care. And then we will now drop it for Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, and everybody and say, okay, these are your new apps for mobile. And they're like, wow, this is great. You're using it. Done. Like that, sometimes you have to do those things. You have to kind of just go around, make face with certain people, fix relationships, use that so you can actually move forward. And I think that would help this is not even Windows, forget Windows Phone. This just will help the Surface itself.
Yeah. Well, and anything that helps the Surface helps the entire Windows 10 ecosystem. It makes Surface Book more compelling. It makes third-party hybrids and convertibles more compelling. And once we have developers actually interested in moving to that touchscreen multi-mode computing interface, I mean, I still think it's a terrible strategy, but then we can come back and say, okay, well, now all we need to do is slap a phone radio into one of these devices so you can make and receive phone calls. Et voila, we have Surface Phone.
Exactly.
And I guess that's how we get there. But I think it's a terrible strategy. I think the strategy takes longer when you don't have the appropriate pressure in mobile now.
No, I definitely agree. But they have the money and resources to actually vamp it up faster than they're doing. I mean, in all honesty, Microsoft can either buy somebody up. They don't, and not even explain. When I see buy, I'm talking about developers who are smaller. Create a team with that and say, you know what? Start churning all this stuff, and then go to all their partners and say, hey, look, who's another big app that is just not on Windows Phone? I mean, I know Netflix is.
You want me to pick just one?
Yeah, just one. Give me one really big app.
I'm the wrong guy to ask about calling up app names right now.
and can anyone just let us know any big app?
But I mean, you could also look at like games and stuff.
Okay, games.
When I can't play Marvel Future Fight on a Windows phone, but I can on an iPhone or an Android. That makes me super cranky.
Yeah, games and yeah, and then also please, now that Sony has remote streaming, you can do anywhere on your PlayStation. Make that happen with the Xbox. Your streaming surface is still better. It is very smooth. It is butter smooth. But can we just have a remote so that, you know what? Then when eventually when you now have that Windows phone, it becomes the Xbox phone. Yeah. To a certain degree, I can play my.
Not to a certain degree. It always should have been. Yeah, totally. No, I completely agree. I think this is super dangerous territory for Microsoft right now, because we're sort of still assuming that the phone market is even going to look like it does today in 2 years. You know, you guys have heard me wax philosophical a number of times on things like I call the post-smartphone world. And we start looking at flagships and how they're becoming commodities. You know, a smartphone isn't a status symbol like it used to be anymore. Yeah. A really expensive smartphone, a lot of people are going to, as many people are going to be impressed, as much as people are going to, well, why would you spend that much on a phone when a less expensive phone can do the job well? And I think, you know, in your comment section at Pocket now, when we're looking through comments, you know, there's a huge cadre of people that are looking at Huawei's and Nexus devices and Oppo's and OnePlus phones. Yeah. You don't need all of the trappings of a really premier flagship device, but you want the power and performance of one. You're willing to put up with some other compromises elsewhere. So, you know, these things are quickly becoming just the same kind of commodity that our desktops and laptops are now. No one gets into heated debates about desktop PCs.
No, true. But you make an art. You made a point there. Maybe Microsoft's thinking is that because that is happening, then let us take the smartphone forward to being that commodity itself, because as much as powerful as the smartphone is, it's also a very limiting device.
Oh, I really hope so. But unfortunately, I still see them like, oh, what we're going to do is we're going to come out with a Surface phone and we're going to wow you. And I don't know that anyone gets wowed by smartphones anymore.
No, I agree. I'm just saying that it has to do exactly what the Surface did. The very first Surface, even in the sense that it has to be, when we get it, it's not the hardware. It's literally how you use it. And you go, oh, snap. So you're telling me that literally I can own this and I really have a PC, or I really have that power across the board. Then that starts communicating to people. And then, you know, it brings in a very different mindset. It's just not a phone anymore. It's a personal computing device. You know, to a certain degree, I see that thought process in their head is, it's going back to the movie Her. You know, they have those AI bots. They're trying to make the Surface phone a computer, really. And the Surface is also itself blending all these things together. And even the Xbox is becoming more Windows. So if we bring all these things together, we will
I don't fault their strategy. I don't fault their end game. I think their end game is on point. We want all these things to tie together. I want one Microsoft account. And it shouldn't matter what glowing rectangle they go to. I can interact with my data and my services. Yeah. I think their short-term strategy is going to make their end game longer and more difficult to get to. That's basically what I'm saying is by not having a presence here, when they come back with a Surface phone, they won't have a strong Lumia name. They've already killed the Lumia name.
Oh, they just destroyed it now.
They've killed it. So what else have you heard me bitch about a lot in the past is tech products, when they walk into a market, need at least a 3-year cycle before consumers will start taking them seriously. Surface 1, geeks thought it was cool, but everyone was hating on Windows 8. Surface 2, oh, well, you know what? This is actually better than I thought it was. Surface 3, now we're starting to talk about a viable consumer.
Yeah, they're like, oh my God, it's here. And then Surface Pro 4 is, and the Surface Pro 4 device is finally here.
And Surface Book finally, you know, Surface had such a reputation that people took Surface Book way more seriously than if that had been like their first generation device. Exactly, even if it had been exactly the same, everyone would have just panned it because it was new. So we are not going to have any Windows Phone traction in 2016. We're probably not going to have any new exciting devices to talk about. We're going to try and coast on a Lumia 950 and a Lumia 650, which is disastrous. Yeah. 2017, we might eventually get a Surface phone, which everyone's going to pan. No one's going to like it. It's because, and even if it's amazing, it's new. And we don't really like new. We like refined.
Fine, yeah.
So then 2018, 2019 is when we'll finally start having serious discussions about Windows Phone. But I think by 2019, Google and Apple will have already started working towards a more diversified ecosystem, more diversified services and experiences. So the hardware is already going to be kind of an irrelevant discussion. Microsoft will be trying to get back into mobile when mobile hardware is already irrelevant.
Yeah. See, my counterpoint to that is, even though it is late, the other flip side is that Google and Apple have to do what Microsoft has already done with the Surface. And that's where their problem is. And especially Google, who doesn't have an OS. Apple, to me, is still at a better place because blending OS X and iOS just has to happen.
I don't think it will. I think their push is to make iOS more robust.
But yeah, and it to me, it's a harder game. And Google, we all know Chrome is pretty much useless. So,
well, but I think Google actually has an exciting opportunity. They've got a good app infrastructure. If they could just bring the true desktop grade Chrome browser to Android, then we would have the best of both worlds. We would have Chrome OS and Android OS together in one. I don't understand, with Qualcomm 820 processors out there, why I can't have a desktop grade browser on a mobile device. That's way more powerful than what's in first and second generation.
Well, it's very simple. Chrome is a hog. Remember, it was built light. Now it
totally is. But we're looking at phones with 4 gigabytes of RAM as standard at the top tier of the market. We're already talking about weird Chinese manufacturers that are building in like 6 gigabytes of RAM.
No. I definitely agree. I think the problem is Chrome and Android itself. Android is a system resource hog, and Chrome itself is a hog on its own. So I think they're having problem with management
or just refining.
Yeah, so that's what it needs to be. Yeah,
we actually do have a comment on that from Richard Thomas in the live chat, and he says, "I wonder how app developers will react if Google decides to switch over to Swift for future Android apps." There was a rumor out that Google is looking at trying to migrate that platform over to get away from their issues with the language that they use to write Java. Man, words are slow to come to brain, and this is a really exciting way to do the show.
I mean, look, people would be pissed, but you're making bread and bank off that, so you're just gonna make the move. That's just it. I mean, Android is big enough now where you just have to do it. Simple.
You think moving to Swift is a foregone conclusion?
Yeah, it's a foregone conclusion. It's something they have to do. It takes away all the litigation issues that they have, and also for them, maybe that will also help with some of the issues they have just software wise. In terms of how remember with Java, the problems also you had with Java is also you had errand codes that just waste battery life, do other it just basically tasks your system in very weird ways across the board. So this is something that you can use to clean up, and if you're getting more and more apps that move that way, it makes sense.
Actually, and immediately back to that previous point, if Swift can help Google refine the process, the resource overhead between the OS and then the apps and services, then that might be the killer switch to make Chrome OS and Android one unified platform.
Yeah. All right, cool. We've spent quite a bit of time talking about Microsoft, then Google in that very first topic.
We should probably move on to other topics. But thank you everyone in the live chat for hanging with us. Real quick, Richard Thomas did have one other question. Does that work for devices like the Nextbit Robin, your 3-year cycle? And so I look at Nextbit Robin, geeks are talking about it, but no consumers are risking their phone. Phones are mission critical devices now, right? We don't take chances on a phone. It's why Samsung and Apple continue to dominate, because they've proven themselves with a consistent track record for consumers, not for geeks, but for your general consumers out there, that these are devices you can rely on, that you can get support for them, that you can get cases and accessories for them. And so a Nextbit Robin, my mom isn't going to run out and grab a Nextbit Robin on the first generation. My sister, who's super tech savvy, is not gonna risk her main lifeline communication device on a Nextbit Robin. And we don't even know that Nextbit's going to stick around for multiple years in the ecosystem or in the market. So they've got the same challenges that any other company walking into this space would have. By the time we see Nextbit Robin 3, then I think consumers will probably start taking them more seriously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway, so sorry, moving on to our next topic. NFL will be streaming on Twitter come this next season. So they partner with Twitter to stream Thursday night football games. So basically, one game a week on Twitter. And so general thoughts on this. A lot of people were vying for this. Yahoo was, Facebook was, and the NFL decided to go with Twitter.
I mean,
big win for Twitter.
I gotta say, like, excuse me. I gotta say, to a point, I mean, like, this makes sense because what service am I most apt to have running while I'm watching a game anyway? I mean, it's probably Twitter. It's not Facebook. It's not Google Plus.
No, it definitely isn't.
And I don't do anything with Yahoo anymore except to occasionally check in on Flickr and see everyone else's Instagram pic dumps on Flickr. So I actually think this could be a really legit pairing. It's an immediate, in the moment communications platform paired with a property that sort of survives on that in the moment crazy conversation between fans.
Yeah, I mean, I see that. I think the only reason why Facebook, according to the other article we're looking at from CNBC, was that Facebook undervalued. I mean, Facebook wasn't going to try and pay too much money. I mean, they are big dogs now, so they know how to price. But I mean, part of me, I like the deal with Twitter. I also kind of wish it was on Facebook, because to me, when I look at Twitter, I go, when I'm watching the game, I am going to comment with lots of people, usually fans of Booredatwork, but also not everybody there is my friend.
Right.
Facebook, I can do that with friends. I mean, that's my own.
I see what you're saying.
Because if I'm streaming on Facebook, then like, especially I'm a Patriots fan, so I have a lot of Patriots friends, because I'm from Massachusetts, who are on my Facebook. On Twitter, no. And so that's the only difference. But I do like the deal. You're right, because firing up Twitter and it's probably going to be always on the top bar, and you can just go straight to the Thursday night game is pretty cool. I want to see how they integrate you commenting and tracking back. I just want to see how that interface eventually shows up when Thursday night football kicks in.
Well, and that's what's going to be vital. And also it's a tricky thing, like Twitter, I don't think Twitter works well when they're cultivating content for you or when they're being overly precious about filtering content. I think that actually does a huge disservice to what it is that Twitter provides value. So how they integrate video into that platform is going to be crucial.
Yeah.
Because if it's a disjointed experience, or you need to have multiple tabs open, or it's difficult to interact with, then we're not gonna use it. I'll just put the game back up on my TV and just use Twitter as a standalone service, as the second screen service.
Yeah.
So I mean, all of that. I mean, the mechanics on this, I think, are vital to get right, and I don't think they'll get it right immediately.
No,
in the first couple of games, and it'll need some time to refine. But I still think, out of all of the services that they could have picked to partner with, I think Twitter makes the most sense once we get out of people like ourselves who utilize Twitter as a business platform with slightly larger audiences, and then start looking at like the people who we're friends with. Maybe they've got a couple hundred followers. Those people legitimately are just like friends and close colleagues. I think this makes a lot of sense. I think this is
actually, to play devil's advocate, I think this makes the worst sense possible.
Do tell.
But very simple. NFL and all sports franchises do this to themselves. Do not restrict your viewing public.
But how is this restricting it, though?
I mean, okay, for instance,
I mean, it's not like the game isn't like, it's not like NFL's leaving TV to go to Twitter.
No. What I mean is, if you really, the one person who has it right is, I think, MLB. This shit should be everywhere. Just forget it and put it everywhere and be done. Try and put it everywhere. I mean, in the sense that it should be on, I should be able to stream on an app first on any device. And I should also be able to catch it on Twitter and Facebook, because the ads are going to run anyway, right?
Well, but MLB doesn't have a direct.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah, they don't. You don't. I mean, but they do have a better app situation.
They do, but they also have major issues when it comes to regional TV licensing, which I don't think the NFL has. Like, for example, I can't watch Dodgers games on certain cable platforms out here. It's LA. It's the Dodgers. And I
No,
can't
but if you
watch
have the
them unless-
MLB app,
See, but that's just it. Is now I need to go to some other platform, a second screen platform, to catch a Dodgers game if I use an MLB app.
I mean, yeah,
But
but that's
still tied to how you do your
but that's
kickback.
also it's the same thing with NFL. I can't watch Patriots games here because I'm in New York. But even if I get the NFL app, I still can't watch Patriots bloody Thursday. I mean, like Sunday games that are not national to my location. It's the dumbest thing.
Right. So I don't think anyone's gotten it right, and I don't think anyone's gotten it close. So with the NFL partnering with Twitter, I
guess it's the closest thing for me to watch a Thursday. I don't care about Thursday night football. I want to watch Patriots. Forget Thursday night football.
But now, if you're telling me you can't watch a Patriots game, why even worry about whether or not you've got the right app or the right cable platform or the right cable package? You can just go to Twitter. Twitter's a universal equalizer.
Yeah, I guess so. But it should go. It should be on Twitter. And
I know what you're saying, and actually I do
but
agree.
No,
it's just
never be on Google Plus
for the sake of fun debate. because in a way, I think the only other service which maybe could have made more sense would have been to partner with a legit video broadcasting service like YouTube or
YouTube. Yeah.
I don't think that the NFL actually would have gotten their money's worth by going to either of those platforms. I think the NFL worries that they become lost in the noise of YouTube rather than actually building a fan base and building more fans and discussion, actual engagement. I don't think you get that from YouTube. You definitely don't get it from Hulu. I think Twitter is still the best platform to keep the conversation rolling.
No, I definitely agree. I think Twitter and man, they could have at least if they had gone on a dual deal with Twitter and Facebook, then that would have been golden. Facebook has a wider reach than Twitter. Twitter only has 300 million people.
Yeah, but I also think Facebook has some serious. We don't need to get too into this, but Facebook has serious issues with the way that they assign value to their metrics, and also I think the quality of engagement is what the NFL is looking at, where it's not people with just their circles of friends having a conversation. It's public conversation, which is getting blasted via hashtags to every. And I do understand the logic of approaching Twitter with that mentality, because I could be just tweeting to my followers, but I'm not. But it's not private. If I'm just Facebook messaging with my family and friends, only friends of my friends can see that I've even mentioned someone or that I've
true. I definitely agree on that point. I think
even though Facebook, because you're absolutely right, Facebook's overall presence is much bigger. I think that personal fan-to-fan outreach, that hashtag community, is more accessible on Twitter, and I do think ultimately that will prove to be a better move for the NFL than had they gone with Facebook. And I think Facebook would have charged them more for the privilege of being
a billion people, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
True. All right. So moving on to some devices. HTC 10. It's going to be announced on Tuesday.
Looking forward to that.
We're looking forward to it. I'm actually having higher hopes for HTC. For one very good reason.
It's always dangerous to get our hopes up on HTC, but I'm right there with you.
For one very good reason. Not because of the device, but we'll get to that in a second, because LG has effed up. I'm going to put it out there. LG's launch of the G5 has been the weakest launch I have ever seen.
We have a lot. I mean, I finally got a G5, so we have a little to talk about. But let's stick with
so at least I would say LG has created an opening for HTC to come back with some fire. Mm-hmm. Now they've been putting out a lot of teasers and images. One about the best audio in terms of boom sound. So maybe they found a way to still make the audio equally the same as what we got from the last generation, even though the speaker grill looks different now. And then they've also now started teasing that it has OIS Selfie, which, I mean, that is a nice little play. I like that because, that puts things in a very different perspective. It means now your front-facing photos are better than almost anyone out there.
So, I mean, I was going to tease this at the end of the episode, but just last night I put up a selfie video comparison between the Oppo F1, the phone that they're calling the selfie expert. It's got a 16 megapixel front-facing camera.
Yeah.
And the iPhone 6s, which is sort of the most popular selfie camera on the market today. and it's all video from those two phones. And if you get motion sick at all while watching shaky footage, do not watch this video. Because it's me walking around. We actually got a little rain yesterday in Southern California. It's like, I'm going to walk around in the rain. I'm going to go to a park and I'm just going to try, cut back and forth between different
cameras,
different cameras. And it's maybe some of the worst video footage I've ever shared publicly. And it's on Pocket now. You can go check it out right now.
Yeah.
So when HTC starts talking about like, hey, we want to do OIS, yeah, I mean, that's gonna seriously help low light photos, which a lot of our selfies happen in less than ideal lighting conditions.
We all know it's at restaurants, clubs, lounges, me and my girls.
But there's a huge opportunity here for people who are looking at inexpensive content creation. I mean, what we're doing right now is podcasting.
Yeah.
But for those of you that are trying to look at like vlogging, it's really difficult to set up a camera and not be able to see what's on the screen so that you can talk to the camera and know that you're in focus and know that you're creating an interaction engagement. And if you can give me a better quality front-facing camera that can do that, then I think that actually opens up some interesting possibilities. If we could just get the camera quality from the HTC One M7 without the purple haze on a front-facing camera, that's kind of huge.
Yeah, I know it definitely is. And I think, they have a lot. And before I'll go back to the OIS, but they also tease incredibly long battery life. That's another, I mean, they've been throwing all these, the mainstays, but they're trying to make it seem like they are going to beat everything. And because Samsung right now with the S7, the S7 battery life is really ridiculous though.
It's really good.
I'm telling you, like,
I don't even have the Edge. I have the regular S7.
Oh, so the S7, I charge every other day. The Edge, I really charge every 2 days.
So because of excuse me, because of my camera snobbery, I can't ever hypermile a phone because I constantly have that camera running.
Yeah. The S7 camera is good. Yeah.
Having moved from the LG V10, which I still generally prefer the LG V10 camera over the Galaxy S7, but having moved from the V10 to the S7 has been night and day battery performance. The V10 can barely make it to dinner time when I'm really rocking that camera. The S7, I'm late at night and I've still got a little room to spare so I can read it before I go to bed. It's really remarkable what Samsung's done with that battery.
Yeah. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how HTC brings all this together on Tuesday morning. I think it's 8 or 9 a.m. in the morning. They're making the announcement.
I don't know because time zones are not cooperating with my brain right now.
Yeah, so something like that. It's early in the morning, they'll make an announcement. Of course, you're going to see coverage from Booredatwork and Pocket now on that. Mm-hmm. But it'll be interesting. Like I said, they have created they've slowly built hype with of course other people faltering that a lot of people are now interested. Like what's up with HTC? Are we excited? And also the timing has been luckily great this year.
Yeah. Well, and Vibe gave them a huge shot in the arm just for brand awareness.
Yeah.
We've been talking about that for a little while. I mean, that's a big deal that people think your brand is cool, regardless of what your brand actually makes.
Yeah. No, it does. Yeah.
So I was very critical of their strategy not to have an announcement at MWC, but they would have gotten lost in Samsung because Samsung had a killer Unpacked event for MWC. And they get to capitalize on some of the missteps from branding and advertising and just even some of the device issues that people are seeing with the LG G5.
Yeah.
So I have to eat my words on that. I think HTC actually did manage. I don't know that it was through any great strategy, but they managed to hit the timing perfect. The only danger here now is that they've been hyping. And so HTC has a reputation that they need to overcome when it comes to things like camera quality.
Yeah.
So to go out there and start saying we've got an amazing camera means that they can't just have a camera which is comparable to a Galaxy S7. They need to impress, which means that it takes even more effort and energy to overcome
I would disagree,
some of their reputation in the past.
I would say that because of where they were and what people are thinking of. If their camera matches the S7, I think a lot of people will be fine. I think it's what features that they add to it in terms of like.
So I think they'll be fine with you because you are a discerning gentleman with taste, and you tend to treat your reviews with fairness, even though we all have our own individual biases.
Yeah.
I don't think in the market the echo chamber, if HTC's camera is the same as the Galaxy S7, just because the camera app is different, people who are naturally fans of Samsung will say that the HTC camera isn't as nice because it's not intuitive, or it doesn't take shots as well in auto mode. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're gonna have to overcome that perception by actually having a better camera than the Galaxy S7, which is tricky. I mean, that's really difficult to accomplish.
Yeah. I mean, I think where that argument will switch is really with that selfie camera. I think to me, I look at it is that they will go, our camera is this, we have manual controls, blah, 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 and it takes good pictures. Everybody's like, oh, that's nice. But here's the selfie camera, and literally this is as good, almost as good as our rear camera if you look at, quote unquote, the pictures. And I think that's where a lot of people will go, shit, I might take some selfies now.
But I gotta say, the one area where HTC has a right to claim and to be bold is every initiative that they've started, they were just at the wrong time for. Multiple camera sensors, different types of audio equipment, different ultra pixels, having larger pixels to soak up more light.
Yeah.
What is Samsung doing? They're backing off megapixels so that those pixels are larger. HTC's been right. They've just never been at the right time.
Yeah.
And now they have an opportunity to capitalize on that. It's just, I get worried when a company is working this hard to hype. Because if it doesn't, if there's any minor flaw, like what we're seeing with the G5, if there are minor flaws, they're going to get wrecked.
Yeah. The other thing is,
attack them so much harder.
The other thing is, look, what you need to do on the ad campaign side, just copy a Samsung ad. I'm serious.
Yeah.
Do not make
about the device
of doing what LG has just placed out on the market. Copy. You don't have to copy the whole thing, but just copy a feature-rich ad.
For any manufacturer right now, if you're working with a PR team who thinks it's really clever that you do something wacky with a celebrity, fire them now.
Unless, of course, it's Lil Wayne throwing water on champagne on it.
No. Fire them now. If someone comes to you and says, hey, we have this great idea for an ad, for a TV ad. Okay, what is it? Well, we're going to get Jason Statham and we're going to put him in a dress. You're fired. Get out.
I love that.
Go. Because what Samsung's doing is even when they have a celebrity in their ad, Lil Wayne, the whole point of that was
is the phone. Yeah.
They don't even say, I'm Lil Wayne and I'm pouring whatever on a Galaxy.
No, it's very true, though, because the first champagne one was...
It's just him walking and pouring stuff on a phone. My grandmother doesn't know who Lil Wayne is.
Yeah.
But she's still going to understand what the point of what they're trying to make about that phone.
That's very true. It's very true, because the other one, even the other ad where he's pouring the champagne, his friend's like, what? He's like, your phone can't do that. Immediately saying an iPhone, even though he doesn't state it. And then he drops his friend calls, then he drops it into the fish tank. And he pulls it out and the guy's still talking. And then he tosses another sound. Like again, you're right. It is phone. Your phone doesn't work, so you need my phone, which is a Samsung.
Right. And so LG is trying to sprinkle in a little of that with their G5 ad, but it is buried under wackiness.
Yeah.
Again, just like I said with the Next Bit Robin, LG is a top tier manufacturer, but they're a distant 5th place in the United States market right now. Probably. I can't remember what the numbers are, but they're not even in the top 3 anymore. They used to be the number 3. You're not going to convince consumers to take a risk on, and it's going to be viewed as a risk. You're not going to convince consumers to take a risk on your phones if they can't figure out what your phones are about. So it's a huge problem of advertising and branding. If I talk to general consumers out there, none of them know about the LG Friends. That's terrible branding.
No.
These really kind of cool idea, a modular accessory platform for a smartphone. No one knows. And they hear these things like the LG Friends, and they see these cartoony graphics and these pretty little boxes with funky writing on them. And I can't even open the box right now. Like on all this is really cute labeling life's good when you play more. But it
With
actually
friends.
reads, life's good, play when you more, if you're reading from left to right. So even the battery's kind of proper. I'm going to drop an F-bomb here. I apologize. You know, even the fun stuff right here is proper fucked. And I mean, like, I was such a huge fan of what LG did last year, from the G4 to the V10. I thought they were really on point to be a major disruptor, a major competitor. And the G5 brings so many interesting things to the table, and they're not talking about that. They're trying to trick you into being entertained by wackiness, and then hopefully a message about the phone cuts through there. This phone, it's on the charger, so I can't show it. I mean, the G5 looks the part at arm's length. You could be showing me a professional mobile computing device, and instead you've got Jason Statham in a wig looking kind of like Jesse Eisenberg.
Since we're talking about G5, I haven't received mine yet. I've held the G5 and used it for a bit, and my first initial impressions, I'm not impressed. Just from you. So I want to hear your own thoughts, since you.
So this is with 24 hours, because I just got mine. I finally got all of the accounts and stuff loaded up. This thing gets so many things right. First of all, fingerprint sensor on the back. Fingerprint sensor on the back. Fingerprint sensor on the back. On the back is where you should put a fingerprint sensor. Even going to my S7, this is not a big phone. I don't have difficulties reaching the home button on this phone. I mean, we make jokes about my tiny little hobbit hands. They're slightly smaller than average sized, I would actually say. The S7 is fine, but I still need to reposition the phone in my hand. Even with the iPhone 6S, I need to shift subtly the position of the phone in my hand to reach a home button. I do not need to do that on a rear-mounted fingerprint sensor. A rear-mounted fingerprint sensor is better for hand sizes of all shapes. It doesn't affect you with giant hands, but it benefits me with smaller hands. A home button fingerprint sensor is not an issue for you. It's an issue for me if I'm on the go, if I'm on the run, if I'm trying to jump out of my car, grab my camera bag. And
I do like the rear fingerprint sensor. You know, especially like the ones from the Huawei phones, the Nexus
totally.
6B.
So sorry, not to keep harping on that, but I mean other things too, like playing with the cameras. I'm going to be shooting all next week for the full in-depth camera review on the G5. They look like they're on point. We don't look like we've taken a step back from the G4, which I was worried about.
Does it still have manual controls all the way through?
For stills.
What the hell?
Not for video.
Okay, that's just
again, LG is dividing their general flagship from whatever phablet strategy they might have, and they're drawing a line on software, because it's not like the phone couldn't handle it from processing power. You can't tell me that the 820
yeah, no, we waited for the
808 can do on.
Waiting for the 822 to do that.
Oh, we need an 823 to give you a shutter speed control on your video, because I'm LG. And it sucks because this module is really cool. The way that you can, while shooting video, you can blur instantly between the normal field of view and the wide angle field of view without interrupting the video is really stinking cool. So then to not give me the ability to control that video is really disappointing. But when people are complaining about build quality issues, I totally hear them, because it's really hard to show on this webcam, but the edge, the seam that runs around the back plate on the phone feels really rough.
Yeah,
it feels unfinished. It feels a lot like some of those models of HTC M9s, where the M8 had that perfectly rounded, smooth side, and then the M9, there was this edge, and it didn't feel finished. I understand why people are a little concerned about things like the feel not feeling metal. I actually kind of like
it feels a little bit like, it felt a little bit like plastic to me.
It totally is. It's paint. It's painted. And that's how they got around. That was their. See, this is what's so frustrating about LG, is that they didn't communicate this properly. So they painted the back of the phone, and that's actually kind of a novel solution.
So it's not a metal build.
The phone has a metal frame, but it's painted.
All right. Yeah.
So that's actually kind of a novel solution for antenna bands without just outright copying HTC, right?
Yeah.
Because I'll hammer Apple for that. They straight up ripped off HTC's antenna design.
Yeah.
I mean, not from a legal sense. I mean, from a design and aesthetic sense.
Yeah.
So this is a solution to make sure you don't fall into that same trap. But they didn't communicate that with their customers. They said, this is a metal phone.
Oh, man.
Which it is, but it's covered in paint.
Yeah.
So if HTC, instead of using Jason Statham, if HTC had come out with a design commercial, a commercial talking about the design and the contours, and they had interspliced footage of building an LG G5 and then doing a really hot custom paint job on an old school muscle car with a sexy chick behind the wheel, and they had put those two ideas together, we wouldn't be complaining. We'd be thinking, oh, that's kind of cool.
Oh, true. Also, if they had just actually come up with a new faux term for their build other than metal, call it metal acrylic or whatever you want to call it, but just call it something, and people go, it's not really metal. It's like the next version. Okay.
Exactly. If they had communicated it, we wouldn't have had a problem. But instead, we found out about it from other bloggers and reviewers. So now it looks like LG has something to hide about their build quality. And that's a terrible place to be on the internet echo chamber. Yeah. It's really plastic. It's not metal. It's a plastic phone. It's plastic. It's plastic. Well, it's not. But now you can't undo that message. That message is bait. It's everyone knows that's what it is. So I'm playing around with it. I mean, the battery door is kind of a novel approach to having this kind of build and being able to swap the battery. The audio is sounding pretty good. I still need to run all of my benchmarks and tests on the headphone jack. The camera is going to be very good for stills. I think it's going to be mediocre for video, but it's a snappy little performer. I really wish that I could get this kind of performance on my V10.
Okay.
Exact same V10 hardware, exact same V10 camera, exact same V10 headphone jack, and then just pop in an 820, and I will be so happy. I'll just be peeing myself in my pants happy.
All right, good. Well, thanks for the update. I will drop my review whenever I get it, or even if I get it, so you guys will see whenever that happens. But moving on to a company that is doing very well, Samsung. Looks like they're going to post some really killer profits.
I'm really stoked to see this. I mean, please continue. But
reports of Samsung is probably going to post profits figures of up to 5.7 billion with a 10.4% growth from last year, because the S7 is outselling what the S6 is doing. And I've heard from a lot of people, like, I don't know, I think you probably met him once, Robsky. He has, he also, I mean, he has his channel, but he also works at T-Mobile. And he said in their stores, the Edge is outselling the S7, and they have no Edges available at all.
Yeah.
They do have some S7s available, but so it looks like in general, Samsung devices are selling completely. And in terms of returns, he was saying that the only returns they've had in stores for the S7 were faulty devices that were replaced.
Yeah.
And not to harp on LG, they've had 4 returns out of 5 they sold, 4, 5 or 6, something like that.
So that's just a sad sample.
Yes. Yeah. So it's just to put things in perspective, but and it looks like they already shipped 10 million units in March alone.
Yeah.
So they're going for a killer year.
So here's why I'm excited. I'm excited because this actually does it disproves one of my hypotheses, and it does it in a spectacular way. When we look at the phone market, when we look at consumer education on electronics and gadgets and gizmos, we've got a lot of data from Apple when the iPhone 6 sells like crazy and then the iPhone 6S doesn't sell as well.
Yeah.
Well, we can point to that and say, well, consumers care more about changing the form factor than they do about refining the device. Now, Samsung is in exactly the same situation because the S7 does not use exactly the same shell or exactly the same frame as the S6, but they're so similar that I think general consumers would look at both devices and have a hard time picking which is which. But the message Samsung got out was, we made our product better.
Yeah.
And it's resonating. But consumers are latching onto that idea. They're understanding that idea, and it's generating sales. It's generating income. We can have a nuanced conversation with your average consumer and tell them, we made this product better. And we're not just telling you that, we actually did make this product better. And even though it looks very similar to the last product which we made, which we thought was pretty good, you're going to notice that there are things about this phone which are better than last year's phone. And there's a reason why you're going to want this phone.
Yeah.
That to me, it like makes me so happy, because it really does mean as long as you can get your branding right, if you can get your messaging right, you can talk directly to consumers and they will understand. And I'm so tired of people, especially in our tech blogging communities, that act like your general user is a blithering idiot. Like, why would you ever buy that phone? You're dumb, you know, like that sort of tech elitism. We can walk away from that, because Samsung is now showing us evidence of having a more nuanced discussion with people about where and how they should spend their money.
Yeah, definitely. I think they're hitting the right strides, and I would like to see them just continue and transition to the Note 6, because to me, that's my device. I mean, I love the Note. So
they have a lot to prove there. And it's not like the Note 5 was bulletproof. You have the same opportunities to show that you can shake up the design a little bit. You can add lifestyle features back into the mix, give us a larger battery. I mean, there's plenty that they can hit that with to keep the message going.
Because to put it in point, I use a Note 5 and the S7 or the Edge, you know, as like a secondary device. My S7, which has a smaller battery than my Note 5, lasts longer than my Note 5.
Totally.
Yeah. So, and the Edge is just like whatever. I mean, the Edge lasts as long as almost as long as blue phones. The blue phones that have like 5,000 milliamp batteries. So, to see them move that to the Edge and really focus, for the prosumer guys, go, now you have battery that lasts as long as you do, that kind of thing. And also, like you said, bring some of those lifestyle elements in, where we now have the micro SD back. We have some of these other features in there. And, I think.
And I'm really looking to the Note to fix the one issue I have with my S7, and that's headphone playback.
Yeah.
The amp on the S7, and I don't know about the S7 Edge. I haven't gotten to listen to one long enough to test it. But the amp on the S7, the regular S7, is a little disappointing. It's significantly quieter than the Note and the S6 Edge Plus were last year, and it's just absolutely shamed by iPhones and LGs right now. So I hope that's something that they address on the Note 6, because the Note 6 and the S6 Edge Plus were baller headphones.
Yeah. I haven't that much either. I still use my Note 5, so
no, I mean, and like I'm popping in nice headphones. The amp there is powerful enough to kind of overcome slightly higher impedance headphones. The S7, it's a really great EQ. I mean, like, I really like it's a pretty flat. I don't think they're harshing the uppers, the brighter tones in music and instruments. So it's a really nice sound quality, but that amp just doesn't drive like competitors can.
No, it's very true. I mean, we'll see if they work on that. Another company who needs to really revamp its stuff, even though Samsung's doing so well, is BlackBerry. BlackBerry is now focusing on mid-range devices, something they should have focused a long time ago. But again, this looks like another company, just like Microsoft, where they don't know what they're doing. They had an opportunity to stick with what they've done well with the last BlackBerry device. What was it called again?
You mean the Priv?
The Priv, yeah. The Priv was a good start.
Yeah, I got it right here.
They needed to me, that's something where by now they should have released a mid-range BlackBerry to showcase that, you know what, this is smaller, this is nothing crazy, but this is us pushing some of those elements out again. And they're stalling on that.
Let's also be fair. I mean, like the Priv as this is so funny. I'm gonna have to flip the script on this. I'm eating so many of my words over the last year. BlackBerry has an opportunity which Microsoft does not. I don't think I've never agreed with the sentiment like, we'll just make an Android phone and you'll be successful. And the Priv perfectly shows us why that's not true. Just because you've made an Android device, no one gives a shit. There are a lot of Android devices out there in the ecosystem. So now this is year 2, because I mean, the Priv really didn't reach more mass markets until towards the end of last year.
Yeah, true. Okay, so
now we're talking about what they're going to do this year. You know, they're coming out with new phones this year. What is Microsoft not doing? Coming out with new phones this year. So again, when we talk about like a 3-year cycle, BlackBerry now needs to reprove themselves in a consumer ecosystem. They have a name that people understand. They have a brand that people can relate to, and they have hardware features that people know, like hardware keyboards.
Yeah.
But they still need to prove that they're going to stick around. They're not going to just evaporate overnight, that they can continue to update their devices, which they haven't done a great job with the Priv, and that they can come out with future devices. So year 2 devices, I think people start taking them a bit more seriously for sticking around, just for still being here.
Yeah.
And then hopefully by next year, we'll have a more competitive BlackBerry. But if you can give me a BlackBerry Classic running Android, you know, like little thumb keyboard, you probably still want to go to a rectangular screen, I guess, but that could be a really interesting device if you can hit a sub $400 price point. You know, like that could be a cool way to shake up the sameness of all glowing rectangle slate Android phones.
Yeah,
you're never going to make that a top seller. Never walk in with the idea we're going to sell 20 million units. No, fuck off. But if you can go in there and say, hey, we're going to be the king of this niche. We're going to rule this niche like it's our kingdom. That's interesting. That's bold. That could be really exciting. But you still need to take the time to actually get there.
No. That is very true. I mean, we'll see how BlackBerry does moving forward, but it's one of those things where they just need to start dropping devices. And mid-range is an area where, like when Microsoft did that with the Lumia, they were able to keep themselves in the market.
Right.
You know, so that is something. And the mid-range market is flowing, especially in Android. Now, if you come in with a BlackBerry where people have, as much as, you know, BlackBerry has nosedived a company, there's a certain mystique about BlackBerry people like, you know, especially on the security side. And also the fact that, yeah, they made good devices when they were good, you know. So you hear a BlackBerry mid-range is like, you know, 300-400, or even like if they went in a sub low or like a 250 BlackBerry, and they're like, okay, you know, this is something I definitely could look at. And that's what you just need to do in you know, moving people forward.
Totally. But Vicente George nails it again. I mean, I think so much of what we're going to talk about over this year is communicating. BlackBerry, I'm sorry, Vicente George's actual comment was BlackBerry is another company with terrible marketing issues. And you can't expect consumers to know you exist. You have to make them know you exist. You can't just you could make an amazing product tomorrow, put it on every carrier store shelves, and no one will buy it.
Yeah.
No one. Unless you do a good job communicating your brand's messaging, your brand's awareness, and your brand's specialties to the people with money in their pockets to spend on a phone. And BlackBerry is one where you have this great nostalgic user base that's untapped. There are all these like sort of sleeping giant former BlackBerry users who probably would want a reason to come back to a BlackBerry, but you have to inform them that it's there, and you can't do that with a $700 Priv. That's not going to happen.
Yeah,
that's absolutely a terrible idea. So now, if you can give me a BlackBerry Classic style phone with the full power of Android on tap, then I think you have room to tear up the mid-range a little, just like the iPhone SE. The iPhone SE is not designed to blaze new trails or to open up new avenues of revenue. It's solely designed to be an entry-level product and replace the iPhone 5S, but it's doing it with powerful internals. You know, so when you do pick up this cheaper iPhone, you don't have a gimped experience on iOS 9.3. You have a really nice experience on iOS 9.3.
Yeah.
And BlackBerry has an opportunity to do something similar in the short term.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's move on to another company. I know we are kind of approaching the end of the show, that has been making waves and hitting strides this year. I'm talking about Huawei. They announced the P9 this week.
Yup.
Huawei's had a slew of killer devices, starting up from the 6P to the Mate 8. They even released the cheaper GX8, G8X, I think, right? Or GX8.
Well, it was the G8 internationally. In North America, it's the GX8, but they're exactly the same.
Same thing, yeah. That's also a very good phone, which I will drop my review at some point. I apologize. I did the unboxing like a month ago.
And the full reviews on pocketnow.com.
Nice one. But yeah, so they announced the P8, which has a like a camera. It's a
dual sensor like a camera.
Like a camera, yeah. And we haven't personally touched the device yet, but it seems like, you know what, all the trappings you would expect from a Huawei device: fingerprint sensor at the back. You also have like a camera, which means the camera should be greatly improved overall. And some of that Huawei experience that we now are liking.
I'm really interested to see. We talked about the camera a lot on the Pocket Now podcast. I'm really curious to see what that team up brings, because it's a fascinating split sensor where one sensor is dedicated to picking up color information and the other sensor is dedicated to picking up light information. And it's sort of split like the rods and cones in your eye, where parts of your eye are designed for color and parts of your eye are designed for light. So there is one camera sensor on that phone that's dedicated to just black and white, because that's luminance. So when you start pairing those two sensors, the output from those two sensors together, we could end up with some stellar photos off of that thing because of how those two sensors work in tandem.
Yeah.
So even though they're smaller sensors, I think they're going to be 1/3 inch sensors. Even though they're smaller, we're radically improving the amount of surface area that's dedicated to photography on each of those sensors by working in tandem. And they're not just duplicating the results. They have specific jobs that then work together. I think it's a fascinating move. I'm so curious to see if it actually pays off.
Yeah, I am too. Hopefully we'll both get it soon, and we can take pictures and show you the glory of dual Leica lenses. I don't know why I did that. Sorry.
I was gonna double gun with you. Okay, no, it's fine. You're right. You're right.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to another company who is also doing some really cool revamp, and this is our last topic for the show. HP showcased the Spectre, and it is a lovely looking laptop. So the trend is going back to creating ultrabooks again. Ultrabooks rose and kind of dimmed down, and the convertibles, and ultrabooks are back again because USB-C brings a lot of opportunity for that. And let me share my screen here so you guys can see it.
So in sharing his screen, I think he just exited himself from the call. But what we're looking at, I'll see if I can share the screen and not get completely booted out of this this hangout. So let's see, we'll go here and then we'll go here, and that didn't work at all, did it? Oh yeah, you're looking at my email right now. You don't want to look at that. So here's the HP Spectre. My voice is starting to fail, so this could be utterly ridiculous, but it's it's amazing looking design. This really is a gorgeous two-tone sort of corporate copper. No, see, this is what rose gold actually is. Rose gold is not pink. Rose gold is gold with more copper mixed into it, so it's the quality.
Yeah, thank you very much for continuing that.
No worries. So right now we're just holding a masterclass on why Apple is stupid for calling their phones rose gold, because rose gold is not pink. This is closer to what rose gold actually is, where you mix in copper into gold, and it has an orangish or slightly pinkish hue to it. But this combo of materials looks incredible, and like Anabong was saying, with being able to incorporate USB-C, that brings a brevity of design accents to the table, where you can dedicate less space to peripherals and charging ports and all of these other things. I still would prefer to see multiple USB-C ports. I don't like the idea of just having. Is it just the one? It's just
no, it's three. It's three. If you go back up, it's three.
Is it?
Yeah, it's three ports.
Oh, okay. So I mean, if I'm looking down here at the actual circuit board, I see. So yeah, so that's even better. Haha, take that, MacBook.
Yeah, it's three ports. I got some hands-on on Thursday. You can check out the video on the channel, and it's super light. I mean, it's not as light as the LG Gram laptop, which are feather light, or the Lenovo Levizi, which is weirdly light, but it's a really light laptop. You have a 6th gen core processor, the dual core versions, of course, in there, but it's got 3 USB types. It's very slick. Like, it's one of those things when you use it, when you hold it, you're like, I would like to own this. You really would like to own it. It's well built. They're pushing Bang & Olufsen audio in there, so definitely at least that should be a good boost in the audio department. Promising 9 hours battery life. I mean, this is just for
it's making this product nice.
Yeah.
We have this major problem in the Windows ecosystem where I think people still gravitate towards what's the cheapest machine I can buy, and then they bitch about how it doesn't perform.
Yeah,
that doesn't mean that we can't make premium. I mean, like, you can't take that. It doesn't mean that we can't take ultrabook grade equipment and make it a luxury experience.
Yeah, and pricing for this is not bad. It's $1,169.
It's $1,169.99.
Yeah,
so
that's it.
$1,170 basically.
$1,170 with PCIe SSD 512, 8 gigs of RAM. I mean, this thing will run all your stuff very well. Of course, you're not going to be gaming with it, so it doesn't matter. But this is.
But, I mean, can you imagine rolling into an office or a boardroom, and then people seeing these hinges and this color accents and these edge-lit keys, and I mean, this is just a pretty machine. I really didn't think HP had this in them when over the last year when they were making, I forget what their pavilions and whatever they used to make in the past.
Yeah, they have other Spectres which were nice, but it wasn't, it just wasn't like this. It just didn't feel like, you just crafted, the epitome of laptops, and they really hit it with this one. So I'm glad that they actually have stepped up. I'm glad that they threw those 3 USB Type-C ports in there. Like, look, we can throw as much as possible. Probably for this design they couldn't, but showcasing that, look, you can throw as many as possible, and this is the future, and this is what we can do with it. I mean, that thing actually has space. I mean, the sizing is still big enough to throw a regular USB 3.0 if you wanted to at the back, but
yeah,
they really did feel like doing that. So I think overall it's really solid. I like what HP is doing with that, and can't wait to get my hands on it in person and like just play around with it and not drop it because it looks too great to drop. But it's good. I mean, it's interesting, like, especially like today's list of topics. We have companies that are going up, going down. I mean, it's like we've gone through topics where one company's up, one company's down.
Yeah,
and
I mean, like, and in really unexpected ways. I mean, this wasn't like the craziest, busiest news week. Of topics to talk about, but man, some really surprising stuff from companies that I honestly, I mean, I pretty much counted out HP as being anything other than just a commodity. Like, nothing about their products has been exciting for a while.
Yeah.
And every time they try and hype something up, you get it and you're like, no, this is kind of crap. So now, I mean, Spectre really has a lot to live up to, like, when you actually do get your hands on one and see how it works in your day-to-day lifestyle.
Yeah.
But at least they're trying something bold, which so few companies seem to be doing anymore, is, can we actually do something exciting? Not just what's the minimum that we can do so that we don't take on too much risk.
Yeah.
And I think consumers are getting hip to that. They want to see bigger changes. They want to see bolder moves. They want to see more exciting developments.
Yeah, because if you don't do it, you get stuck. And a lot of these OEMs have also been killed by Microsoft in the sense where, they're trying to copy the Surface, and, and some failing. I know a lot of people have given the new Samsung Tab Pro S a lot of praise that it really isn't a Surface clone.